Today, we will be starting off with the last chapter of the revised syllabus of chemistry, that is biomolecules. We all know that the living substances, they grow, they sustain and they reproduce. And to carry these processes, there are various lifeless or non-living substances which form a large part. And these lifeless or non-living substances are the biomolecules. These biomolecules are defined as lifeless or non-living organic substances which are complex in structure and shape but form a highly systematic and organized structural unit which are required for the growth and maintenance of the living beings. That is, despite of being complex in structures and shape, they provide a specific basis for the growth, for the maintenance and energy sources of the living beings. For example, if we talk about biomolecules, we have carbohydrates which provides energies, proteins which are known as the building blocks. Next we have the amino acids which are present in various of the enzymes, nucleic acids in our body. Then we have the nucleic acids, that is the heredity material or the carriers of the heredity. The first thing about biomolecules is that branch of science which deals with the study of these biomolecules is called as biochemistry. So let's just start with the very first thing of biomolecules, that is the carbohydrates. In the earlier days, carbohydrates were basically defined as the hydrates of carbon. Hydrate means H2O with the general formula CxH2O2. But this definition was not a prolonged definition because it could not serve many evidences. For example, if we talk about deoxyribose, deoxyribose does not follow this particular formula of the hydrates of carbon, but still it is a carbohydrate. The second evidence is this. This is nothing else but acetic acid. This follows the formula of hydrates of carbon, but it is not a carbohydrate. And the third thing is carbon usually does not form hydrates. So these three evidences clearly said that the hydrates of carbon is not the correct definition of carbohydrates, and hence a new definition was given which suggested that carbohydrates are those organic molecules or those organic substances which contain polyhydroxy. Polyhydroxy means hydroxy groups are basically OH. Poly means there will be many OH groups. Polyhydroxy aldehydes and polyhydroxy ketones. That is, the second definition given was those biomolecules or those organic substances which when hydrolyzed, that is, now we are breaking them down, which when hydrolyzed form polyhydroxy aldehydes, that is, they will be yielding something which a CHO group, or polyhydroxy ketone, that is something with this functional group, are known as carbohydrates. So the new definition of carbohydrates came out to be those substances which basically contain polyhydroxy aldehydes and polyhydroxy ketones are carbohydrates, or we can define as those substances which on hydrolysis give polyhydroxy aldehydes and polyhydroxy ketones are known as substances which are sweet in taste, and this also associates it to a word which is saccharine. Saccharine is basically derived from a Greek word saccharos, which means sugar. So the very first basis of classification was based on that sugars and non-sugars. The first classification classified these carbohydrates as sugars and non-sugars. As the name suggests, the very first thing, these will be sweet in taste. Next thing, they are crystalline, that is we can feel the crystals. They are crystalline as well as they are soluble in water. So sugars were those carbohydrates which were sweet in taste, which had a crystalline structure and which were soluble in water. The next one, non-sugars, which were basically not sweet in taste. They were not crystalline, that is they were amorphous or powder-like substances. They were amorphous and they were insoluble in water. The examples can be taken as, we can take the example here, glucose, fructose, sugar, etc. And non-sugars are starch, cellulose, etc. This was the very first basis of classification of carbohydrates, which is only based upon their sweetness and their structures. It does not hold a very specific position as the classification of carbohydrates. Then the carbohydrates were classified on the basis of number of units of which they were composed of. That is, now the classification was based on the ground of how many units combine to form those carbohydrates, or if we hydrolyze them, how many units will they yield. The first one were the monosaccharides. Monosaccharides were the simplest carbohydrates, that is, they cannot be further hydrolyzed, and their general formula was CH2ON. These were the simplest carbohydrates, that is, which cannot be further hydrolyzed. They contain up to 6 carbon units. They are basically of two types. Those monosaccharides which contain aldehyde group, that is the CHO group, are called as aldose, and those which contain the ketone group, that is C-double-bond-O, are known as ketones. Their examples are glucose, fructose, these and ribose. These were basically the examples of monosaccharides or the simplest carbohydrates. The second one is the oligosaccharide, that is those carbohydrates which upon hydrolysis yield 2 to 10 monosaccharide units. That is, on hydrolysis they will yield 2 to 10 monosaccharide units. For example, if they break down to give 2 monosaccharide units, they are called as disaccharides. If they yield 3, they are known as trisaccharides, and so on. For example, if we take sugar, C12H22O11, when that is broken down, it gives out to be 2 units. They are the glucose and the fructose. The next category is the polysaccharides. polysaccharides. These are basically the polymeric forms or the polymers in the carbohydrates category, which upon hydrolysis yield n number of monosaccharide units. Example, we have cellulose. So this was about the classification of these basic carbohydrates, that is monosaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. The next thing is the carbohydrates with D and L designations. Remember one thing, that this DL designations, which we are going to write as capital D and capital L, are different from the designations given in the optically active substances, that is small d and small l. So the next one is D and L designations. Okay, these D and L designations are basically assigned with respect to the glyceraldehyde. Now let's just see how. This is a molecule of glyceraldehyde. This is the last chiral or the last asymmetric carbon of the glyceraldehyde. When the OH group is attached to the right hand side of the carbon adjacent to CH2OH group in a glyceraldehyde, we say that it is designated as capital T. When we say that in glyceraldehyde, the carbon adjacent to this CH2OH has OH group attached to the left hand side. This is the left and this is the right hand side. When it is attached to the left hand side, it is designated as capital L. This is different from the optically active dextrose and levo designations. This is given on the basis of the presence of OH group towards the right or towards the left hand side of the carbon adjacent to the CH2OH group. So now let's start with few examples of carbohydrates. How are they prepared? What are their structures and what are their uses? So the first one which we are going to study in the carbohydrates is one of the most common examples in our day-to-day life, and that is one of the most instant sources of energies, that is none other than glucose. Glucose is readily obtained from sweet fruits, or we can say from honey. About 20% of glucose can be obtained from grapes also, and hence it is also known as the grape sugar. There are two basic methods of preparation of glucose. One is from starch and one is from sucrose. So the methods of preparation. The first method of preparation is from sucrose. When sucrose, that is boiled with HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, or sulfuric acid, it yields molecules of glucose and fructose. That is when it is boiled with HCl or H2 second method of preparation of glucose is the commercial method. That is the preparation of glucose from starch. When we talk about starch, it is a polymeric form of carbohydrates. So, let's prepare glucose from starch. Starch is C6H10O5. That is a polymeric form. So, we will be writing N. When we hydrolyze this starch with sulfuric acid at 393 Kelvin and the pressure is about 2 to 3 bars or 2 to 3 atm, it produces glucose. That is, it would produce C6H12O6. That is our glucose. So, boiling starch with dilute sulfuric acid at about 2 to 3 atm pressure would yield glucose. Now, let us have a brief look at the structure of glucose. Glucose is basically an aldohexose and is also called as the dextrose. It contains aldehyde group, one primary alcoholic group and 4 secondary alcoholic group. It has 6 carbon atoms present in the structure. We said that now we will be talking about the structure. That is, it is also known as aldohexose. Aldohexose means it has an aldehyde group. Hexose means it has 6 carbon atoms. It also contains alcoholic groups. That is, OH groups will also be present in the structure of glucose. When we look at the structure of glucose, it contains one aldehyde group, four secondary alcoholic groups and one primary alcoholic group. This is our aldehyde group. We have 4 secondary alcoholic groups and we have 1 primary alcoholic group. When we talk about the structure of glucose and the molecular formula turns out to be C6H12O6. Now, there were experiments carried out to find out whether these 6 carbon of the glucose are arranged in a straight chain or they are arranged in an isomeric chain pattern. So, for this, the first experiment which was conducted was when glucose is boiled with hydroiodic acid at 100 degrees Celsius, we obtain 2 iodohexose and N-hexane. That is, if we are talking about glucose C6H12O6, we can write it like this, or we can write it as CHO, CHOH, 4, CH2OH. When it is boiled with hydroiodic acid at 100 degrees Celsius, it forms N-hexane and also forms 2-iodohexane. That is, it will yield hexane, N-hexane as the primary compound. The formation of this N-hexane suggests that glucose contains 6 carbons which are formed in a straight chain. That is, the 6 carbon atoms in glucose are arranged in a straight chain. Now when we see the structure of glucose, we can see that there are 4 OH groups here. There is one OH group here. And we have studied in the starting that carbohydrates are polyhydroxy compounds. Polyhydroxy means more than one OH group. Apart from this, polyhydroxy aldehydes or ketones. An aldehyde group is also present here. So let us confirm the presence of these 5 OH or alcoholic groups. We can confirm this by the acetylation of glucose, that is reaction with acetic anhydride, that is CH3CO twice O. When we react glucose with acetic anhydride in the presence of anhydrous ZnCl2, we find that glucose pentaacetate is formed. That is, on the acetylation of glucose, we find that glucose pentaacetate is formed. That is, the product will be, from here this H will be removed, from here this H will be removed, and we will have the COCH3 groups attached here. Along with this, we will have acetic acid as a byproduct. So, the formation of this glucose pentaacetate suggests that the glucose molecule has 5 hydroxy groups. That is, it contains 5 OH groups, 4 secondary, 1 primary. This structure is not suggesting which one is primary and secondary, but the reaction and the formation of the glucose pentaacetate confirms the formation of 5 hydroxy groups. This glucose pentaacetate so formed in the reaction is stable. It is a stable structure and a stable compound, which means that these OH groups present here are attached to different carbon atoms. Otherwise, the structure could not have been a stable structure. We had confirmed 6 carbons in the structure of glucose, 5 hydroxy groups. Now the thing which remains is polyhydroxy aldehydes. That is, we have said in the starting that it is an aldohexose. We have confirmed it as a hexose. Now we will confirm whether it is an aldose, that is a compound which contains aldehydes or not. In the chapters aldehydes, ketones and carboxylic acid, we have studied 2 basic reactions. First one, that is one reaction where hydrogen cyanide was reaction with aldehyde, which led to the formation of cyanohydrine. The next one was reaction with hydroxyamines, which led to the formation of oximes. So let us see both these reactions which confirm the presence of carbonyl group, and in this case we can confirm the presence of aldehyde group in our glucose. So the first one is the reaction with hydrogen cyanide, that is HCN, when glucose is reacted cyanide, cyanohydrines would be formed. That is, we will have the formation of glucose cyanohydrine. Next one is the second reaction with hydroxylamine, or the reaction with the hydroxy compounds NH2OH are basically hydroxylamine. Okay, that is, we will be reacting it with when any aldehyde group or a group containing carbonyl compound, that is CO group, with reacted with hydroxylamine forms oxy. Remember the table which we had drawn where we had reacted it with HCN, hydroxylamine, DNP. This reaction comes from there only. So that is the reason why I told you that these reactions will form a basis of the upcoming chapters. Now let us see the reaction once again so that you can have a recap of the reactions done in the previous chapter. When it is reacted with hydroxylamine, it forms glucose-oxime, that is CH. This H can be written here so that we can show the bonding between nitrogen and carbon. OH. The other groups, that is the carbon containing the hydroxyl group, would remain unchanged and we will have a water molecule formed. This is glucose oxime. These reactions show or prove the presence of an aldehyde group or the presence of carbonyl group in the structure of aldehydes. Now let us study what if we oxidize our glucose. The thing which we have studied is whenever aldehydes are oxidized, they usually yield carboxylic acids. So what will happen when we oxidize our glucose? That is a compound which contains aldehyde group. Apart from aldehyde group, it also contains the alcoholic groups in the structure, whose presence we have already studied by the reaction. So when this glucose is oxidized, it basically forms gluconic acid. Let us see the reaction how. So now let's start up with the oxidation of glucose. We have already confirmed by two examples that this compound contains aldehyde group. In the previous chapter, that is aldehydes, ketones and carboxylic acids, we have seen that the oxidation of aldehydes or the presence of the carbonyl group or the aldehyde group can be done by the silver mirror test. That is the reaction with ammonical silver nitrate. All the aldehydes, when reacted with Tollens reagent or ammonical silver nitrate, give a silver mirrorish appearance, that is, silver is deposited on the walls of the container where it is boiled. The second one is the Fellings solution test. When an aldehyde, that is an aldehyde which is not aromatic, apart from benzaldehyde and formaldehyde, those aldehydes which when reacted with a mixture of Fellings solution A and B or aldehydes apart from aromatic aldehydes when heated with a mixture of Fehling solution A and B, form a reddish precipitate of Cu present in the Fehling solution. These two provide a good evidence of the presence of aldehyde groups. Apart from this, we can also carry out a simple oxidation of glucose by using the bromine water. That is, when glucose is heated or oxidized with the bromine water, that is, we will be writing it as Br2H2O because it is bromine water, it converts into the gluconic acid. That is, this CHO will be converted to COOH group. This is nothing else but our gluconic acid. So these three were the evidences which proved that the oxidation is also showing the presence of an aldehyde group in the structure of glucose. Based on these particular reactions, Fischer arranged these compounds or these atoms present in the glucose in a proper structure, and the structure of glucose is as follows: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 is CH2OH. Remember one thing, that the second carbon from the carbon containing the aldehyde group, that is, if we count number 3 carbon or the carbon which is present at the beta position from the aldehyde group, will have OH on the left hand side. This carbon adjacent to the CH2OH group will have the OH on the right hand side, so as the other carbon atoms also. We have seen that in the DL designations, that when the OH group present on the carbon adjacent to the CH2OH group is present at the right hand side, it is designated as D. This dash is just a separation, just a hyphen. Then we write plus and we write glucose. This D is the denotion or the representation of the OH present on the right hand side. This plus denotes the optical activity, that is, this plus would now tell us whether it is dextro or levo. Plus means dextrorotatory. If I put a minus sign, it would be a levorotatory compound. So the complete representation or the complete form of writing of glucose would be capital D plus glucose, which means it has the OH group. If we write this as the full name of glucose, we can very clearly draw the structure. This plus means that the OH group present on the carbon adjacent to the CH2OH will be on the right hand side. Plus means the activity of this compound will be, it will be optically active. That is, it will rotate the plane polarized light in the clockwise direction, and then we have the glucose molecule. So these were the things basically related to the structure of glucose, the evidences which prove 6 carbons, 5 hydroxy groups and the presence of aldehyde group. Apart from this, we had seen the Fischer structure of glucose. This one carbon remains empty, so put a hydrogen over here. This is basically about the structure of glucose. Now, after this Fischer structure, let us see the Pyrenees structure or the Haworth projection of the formula of glucose. This Haworth structure can very easily be drawn if we remember the Fisher projection. That is, if we remember this 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if we remember any one of this clearly, we can draw the other one. Now, let's just see how. The next structure which we are going to see is the pyranose ring structure or the Haworth projection of the glucose. It is called as a pyranose structure because it represents the pyranose ring. Basically, Haworth drew a structure of this glucose by taking a hexagon. So first let's start by drawing a hexagon. The first thing is drawing a hexagon, or we can draw it in a big way so that you can have a very clear picture of the structure of glucose. This is a regular hexagon. On the right hand top corner, write the O that is present in the pyranose ring structure. This CH2OH is always placed above the pyranose ring structure. That is, it will always be placed here. Okay. Next thing, start arranging the carbon number 1, 2, 3 and 4 from the right hand side of this OH group. Okay, on all the corners we will assign C1, C2, C3 and C4. One very important thing in this we have to remember is all the groups which are present on the left hand side in the Fisher projection will be placed above the plane, and the groups which are present on the right hand side would be placed below the plane in this Haworth structure. That is, all the groups which are present on the left hand side will be above the plane, and the ones below will be the ones which are on the right hand side. So, this is the Haworth projection or the pyranose structure of glucose. This is the alpha D plus glucose. And if we just change the position on the first carbon, that is, now if I just put it as one very simple and one very small change, that is, if I put OH here and H here, it will be the beta structure of glucose, that is the beta Haworth projection, and when OH was below the plane was known as the alpha projection. So these were